the women that have taken part in our programme will talk about the changes that they can make with themselves, and that they can go back with the energy and application to make a change. But they go back to an environment that they then need to work in. And I think, we've been using the language of allyship, and you're not on your own. You work together with men and women to make this operational. And I think some of our thinking now as well is changing towards the idea of a coalition as opposed to just an allyship. So this is to the benefit of your organisation, to have your voices heard. And the organisations, as I know that you're doing another roundtable that uses some of the research that has been done here, but that clearly provides evidence that it's to the benefit of the organisation if they involve a range, a diverse set of voices in what they're doing. So it's really reiterating what you said, Nick, is that you go back and we're looking for that cultural shift that doesn't come from necessarily just banging on the door saying, listen to me, but actually, do you know how much this can benefit you?
And Nick, when you think about women in sport leadership, what do you think is important to keep shifting the dial on that and encouraging more women at leadership level?
I think as with all change, it needs to be embedded in your organization. And I think that's where talking about my own experiences, and actually just like I'm coming out of WSLA this year, with some thoughts of what's going to be next, and what could I move into, or what have I now got the confidence to explore. We've actually had an opportunity, I guess, in my current role that will allow for great change for us as an organization. And I guess my personal choice would be to be part of that change. And I think it's really important to me that we go through a period of change within the organization that I'm currently with. And yes, beyond that, who knows? But for the moment, I think it's important. I can play an important part in that, and I'd really want to do that, and I really want to be part of that. One of the key elements of any change is that it has to be buy-in at the very, very top level. So from your chair to your board, to your CEO, it really needs to be driven from the top. And I've just been in too many situations over the years, and actually being at WSLA and hearing the stories from other women that are trying to affect change, that they've come across the same barriers. Even that in itself is I don't want to say a comfort, but it makes you feel like you're not alone in that situation, that it helps. But then, at the same time, you can learn from experiences where the change has happened, and then and how that has then come about. But we all need to work. It's everyone's responsibility, and it's not just the women, it's the men in the organization as well. And I think as soon as we see embedding of these principles and everybody on board, I think that's when we will effectively, properly see change moving forward.
Yeah, I think for me it's an absolute diversity, and here we're really only speaking about gender, never mind other areas of diversity. So when you look at some of the leading sports teams, they are still very male dominant, and that was sort of my career, and probably very much what inspired me is that there weren't women in the leadership positions. So to me, to recognize areas that need to change, and recognize areas for potential for the future, for evolution and growth, I think you need that cognitive diversity, and you absolutely need it at board level. And you need that fresh perspective, especially we know that sport has been a male-dominated world and still is in a lot of sports. So to me, to really get that cognitive diversity at board level, to really challenge processes and procedures and ways of thinking. I think for me, future world would be that everything we've spoken about is the norm. And it's not, so we're not having these conversations because that is what it is, and it's accepted. But I think with that is the absolute, it's more than a mindset, but just the culture in all sports at every level is looking for that continual evolution and growth, and of systems, processes, ways of getting better. I think, to me, that the other side is that too many sports are still, this is the way things have always been done, this is the way we do it in the sport. So it comes back to change, and it continually embracing change, and look into the future, and look into how do we make this better for the people involved in sport and participants at every level, because it's a sport and physical activity play a huge role in the health of individuals. So it's how do we make that as good experience for everyone involved.
There is, I don't want to say there's no purpose, but there's limited purpose in quotas if they're not then reinforced and reinforced because they're valuable things, not because you just need to be seen to tick a box or something like that. You know, that people understand, that organisations understand that this is a positive move and it's going to help them.
Wow, that's I see in here is encouragement from both men and women, and I don't know if it's fair to say that also that there isn't any threat, so that everyone is just focused on how do we take sport forwards, not what does it do for me. So it's how do we get the game to grow? How do we get this in every corner of the world? How do we get everyone active from birth to death? How do we encourage and make every person the best that they can be because they've been involved in sports, and not because I need to step on somebody else to get above, and that the whole narrative is how can we all be better together?
You let me do all the best bits. So, you know, what in terms of playing back my observations, not just of the conversation that you're having today, but you know, there are continued conversations happening. You know, we have our little WhatsApp group as well that, you know, just helps sort of see where people are showcasing. Is what I love is that we are showcasing all of those things, and that an opportunity like this today just to discuss it. What I want to see more of is even more of that. You know, seeing all of you in places like Anne, you know, you are making enormous strides forward, and I love to hear about how your consultancy and the visibility of the work that you do at a strategic level. And the same with, you know, Nick and Louise as well, is just building on all of these conversations and raising that visibility as well. One of our cohort has been in The Guardian or in the last couple of months with the work that's happening in Nepal with women in football, and that's an amazing thing to be seeing. So it's that keeping the conversation in the spotlight, so we can get to that space where, exactly as Suzie said, the W doesn't necessarily have to be there anymore. It's about sports leadership. So I'm just really proud of all the work that you've already done as a group, and you know, looking forward to the impact as role models that you'll continue to have with other people and women allies within sports leadership.